Let's do an art meditation using the neurographic technique again today. Got my pencil. I've got some gel pens. I'll use these for detail work at the end of this process. And for coloring in our shapes, I've got my paint pens, a fun color palette I'm working with today. So to get started, use your pencil and you can pencil in some nice flowy lines. If you want, you can do one continuous line that continues to loop around the paper. I'm doing a few separate lines, as you can see here. And because I'm working with so many colors today, I want a lot of shapes on the paper. So I'm putting down more lines than I typically do. And we'll see how this turns out. It's an atypical color palette for me. So I grabbed an unusual, again, for me, combination. Now that our lines are all penciled in, I'm going to start coloring in these shapes with my acrylic paint markers. The coloring process for me, I know with the neurographic technique, a lot of times what I've seen is people will outline the lines first and then color in after. I always like to start with coloring. It really helps me clear my head, kind of get some chatter out of my mind, kind of helps just clear that out, or at least I'm able to start detaching myself from my thoughts. The coloring process is very grounding for me. And I have done a little bit more research on this neurographic art technique. And thank you to those of you who have chimed in and comments on other videos. I asked, what is your experience with the neurographic technique? Why is it helpful? Does anyone know the origin story? And I got some great comments, so thank you. And in further research, what I found is that the neurographic art technique is really designed to help you connect your conscious and subconscious mind. And when you start with, drawing out the random lines, then you work, and you'll see this part of the process in a little bit after I'm done coloring here. You go back and you round out all of the sharp or triangular edges. So anywhere the lines intersect and create, a triangle shape or a right angle, you smooth those out. You round out the intersections, and you can also smooth other parts of the lines as you go. And this process is intended to help you release inner tension, explore your emotions, and promote relaxation. I'll say for me, I do find it extremely cathartic to, after I've colored in all of these shapes and worked with the little points, these triangular points in the shapes where the lines intersect, it feels really good to go back and round out those lines and even color over the sharp edges that I've colored previously. So I hope that made sense. I think as this unfolds, you'll get to see what I'm talking about. But I also like to be really mindful of the sensations that I'm feeling and hearing as I do my art meditations or my art therapy exercises. So today I'm using watercolor paper. Now, some people don't like to use acrylic paint markers on watercolor paper. And you might even be able to see here, but you'll see more of the marker lines. The watercolor paper has texture, right? It has more tooth than if you were using like a smooth marker paper or Bristol paper or even mixed media paper. And I do this on watercolor paper because I like the sound and the feeling of the marker against the paper. Aesthetically, it doesn't bother me. This is meant to be a meditation. It's not necessarily a work of art I'm going to be putting in a frame and hanging on my wall. And that's perfectly fine if you do end up framing or, showcasing your art meditations. I think that's a fantastic idea. I just don't go into this process with the intent to create a work of art. Instead, for me, this is completely about the process, and it truly is my meditation for the day. And these last anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour for me typically. So that's why I choose a textured paper, like watercolor paper, with these acrylic pens when I'm doing my art meditations. So that's just a little insight into my process, maybe a tip for you. If you have a hard time getting present or, letting go, just breathe and feel the tool in your hand as it goes against the surface of the paper. What does it feel like? What does it sound like? And as the minutes go by, isn't it amazing how you can look down and suddenly there's more color on the page or lines on the page, and it just unfolds before you as you go. And it's like coloring in every shape here is representative of the present moment. And the present moment is both consistent and always changing because all we have is right here, right now. We always and only exist in the present moment. And yet, we have memories. We can think back about the moment that just occurred. So, the present moment that is now here is different than the present moment that is behind me and is different than the present moment that is to come. And I kind of like to think about that as I'm looking at these shapes. One shape at a time, one present moment at a time. And the next one comes, and the next one comes. It also might be helpful for you to say affirmations while you're drawing. And I'm going to do some more actual guided meditations that accompany art making. I have done at least one actual guided art meditation where I'm doing a guided meditation as you draw. I have one video up. A lot of my videos tend to just be me talking you through the process, maybe giving some meditative tips, like this video right now. But I'm going to do more of the actual guided meditations. And with that, sometimes it's guiding you through breathing and feeling the sensations on the paper. Sometimes it might be guiding you through different affirmations. And so I wanted to share a couple affirmations. Before I do that, can we just appreciate this black paint pen? I normally don't come in and color shapes with black. Usually I use black for outlining and creating designs, but I felt very called to use black today. I don't know if it was just needing a contrast, needing something really bold or different, but I took a risk and I love it. And reminder, both to you, but also to myself, there's not really any risks in art meditation because it's art meditation. So even if this looked awful, that would be okay. And it still felt amazing. And it was really fun to see this black come to life with the other colors on the paper. So here's a simple affirmation you can use while you're coloring. I am free to express my creativity. I am free to express my creativity. You could also say this as, I am free to express myself. It is safe for me to self-express. So choose a version of that resonates with you and sit with that affirmation for the next moment or two. And I'll be back in a moment to walk you through the rest of this process. Okay, now we are going to trace over our pencil lines with silver. So I did a video the other day where I used black paper and did the neurographic technique with just this silver Posca paint pen. And it was awesome. I loved it. And it gave me the idea to use the silver on a colorful neurographic art meditation. So you can see in real time, I take this nice and slow. Pro tip, let the shapes completely dry before you start tracing. The marker pulls more smoothly on a dry surface. If some of these shapes are still wet and you start tracing over the lines, there can be a little bit of a drag. And also, you can see it's okay to not do this perfectly. I'm going to go back and add some width to some of these lines to cover up some of the gaps. So you can see kind of in the middle there. I missed a little bit. There's some black inside that yellow shape. That's totally cool. Keep going. If you make a mistake, keep going. And this is, again, really about the process. And it feels so good and satisfying to outline here. I don't want to, stop to try to get worked up about fixing mistakes or things like that. But I thought that was a great example of showing you in real time. A lot of times when these videos get sped up, there are mistakes made, if you want to call them mistakes. It just goes so quickly, you might miss it because I'm also going back and correcting them at the end. And I thought this was nice to just show you it's okay to let this thing unfold how it wants to unfold. And there you go. I just cleaned that up a bit. And an affirmation you could use on this part of the process, as I'm going in here and rounding out the edges. So I tried to kind of zoom in on certain areas where my hand wasn't totally in the way, but you can see I'm rounding out anywhere those lines intersect and create a point or a triangle. I'm rounding that out. This is really relaxing and satisfying. And I want to give you a couple affirmations you can use with this part of the process. You could think of this as you're smoothing out these lines, you're smoothing out the thoughts in your mind. And that could be your affirmation. I am smoothing out the thoughts in my mind. Or my mind is clear. My thoughts flow with ease. I am present in this moment, drawing with intention. With every line, I relax a little bit more. Here's my favorite one. It is safe for me to let go and trust the process. Okay, we've smoothed out all of our intersecting lines. Now I'm taking my gel pens. I have this bluish gel pen. I also have a pink and a silver. But I'm going to come in here and draw some designs in some of the shapes. And I'm going to go with the ring pattern again today. This is what I did on my last neurographic video. And I've just really enjoyed how this feels. Starting with the outside ring, just following along the outline of the shape and then working your way inside. Turn this baby around, get some of these shapes over here. And I did that so I'm not, smearing the gel pen. Gel pens can take a few minutes to dry. And speaking from experience, if you let the side of your hand or, your palm drag over that gel pen as it's still drying, it's going to smear all over. I'll share a couple more affirmations with you that you can use. And sometimes I might choose a variety of affirmations. Sometimes I don't do affirmations at all. I just let myself completely get engrossed in the present moment and be just so in flow state that after I don't remember if I was thinking or not. But so sometimes that's my process. And sometimes I might just pick one affirmation for the entire meditation or mantra. Maybe it's a word that brings you peace or ease. So there's not one right way to do this, but I am offering you some options, just suggestions, but really just as always, do what feels good to you. But here's a couple more that maybe you want to run with. I trust my inner wisdom to guide me. Here and now, I connect deeply with my inner self. I am safe and grounded in the present moment. I am safe and grounded here and now. Here and now, in the present moment, I am always safe. Right here, right now, I'm okay. So, again, pick the affirmation that just feels good to you. And we're going to peel off this tape now. This is the reward, the ultimate dopamine hit. So, it's like a little treat after an hour of this meditative, introspective, creative process. We get to see what we made. Oh, I love it. I love the metallic lines here, the colors. Oh my gosh, this felt so good. Thank you for joining me today.